everybody, Caleb here, and today I've got all the parts to make a banjolin, or a manjo, a banjo mandolin, and we're going to see about putting this thing together. Now, I don't have all the parts right here, but I do have all the parts, I'm pretty sure. As for what this thing is actually called, I think most people call it a banjolin, but I think manjo sounds way funnier. But we're going to try and put this thing back together. I know that there's a terrible neck angle issue with it, as there are with a lot of old banjos. And you can see it's in pieces. I was looking at this fretboard, and it is dry, falling apart dry. There's a huge crack right up the center. I think I'm just going to put some CA glue in it. I don't really see anything else doing any good. It doesn't like move really, and I think it's just that dry. The other thing is, as this goes on, you might be able to see there's some downward angle to that. So it doesn't actually want to clear this if it's already attached to the neck. We'll see what we can do about that. Hopefully adding some neck angle is going to solve that issue. But this fretboard is sloping at the end. Not a great sign. I've got a little bit of super glue, CA glue, in this dropper. I'm just going to run it up that crack. And watch it seep all the way in there. Yeah, it's seeping through the top. That was not a great sign. Bring it in here a little bit more. Yeah, this board is not in great shape. You can see the top has become saturated where that crack is just working all the way through. Which leads me to believe this is a good idea. It doesn't move enough that I can probably get like wood glue in there. So I'm really just trying to stabilize that crack. Whatever I put is going to have to be really thin to actually get into that crack. So I'm choosing to do super glue, as I think it's the only thing thin enough to actually get in there and really stabilize this thing. Because it's not moving. It's just really cracked, and I can't imagine it's going to be long before it just keeps going. And hopefully we'll stop the growth of this crack. Guess I used all my glue. There's still a little bit of a crack down here I'm going to try and fill up. I do think we're doing good here. If this were on the top, I'd be filling this with sawdust as well. But the thing is, this is on the bottom, and you'll never see it. And part of this is getting re-glued to that neck. I'm not too worried about it. It's seeping out around the frets. Man, that thing is just cracked. Cracked. I think it's just because of how dry it is. It's just drying up. Spraying the whole thing with accelerator, so hopefully that glue will just dry. I did have a razor blade over here. I was just going to try and clean this section up that's not getting glued back down. Okay. That's probably as good as that's going to get, really. Trying to take off any of the old gunk. Make sure we got a flat surface to glue to here. There are some pieces of the fretboard left on here. But there's not really any neck on here. So I need to get this, you know, relatively flat. If this isn't flat, if it's got a divot, then that's probably left on here. But if it's got a high spot, that's old glue and junk, and I don't want that. Like, there's pieces here that I'm thinking is old glue. We're just gonna shave that off of there. Alright, that's looking pretty good. What I think I'm actually going to do is get some linseed oil out and really wipe this thing down. It's just so darn dry. Now, you do usually go the Be Good oil. I hardly ever get the boiled linseed oil out, really. But I think it looks good on the older stuff, and because this thing is so dry, I think I'm going to be putting so much on here, I'm going boiled linseed oil. That is, if I can open the container. It's just so stinking dry. I think this is the best plan of action here. We're going to saturate this thing good. Let it sit for a little while. Come back, maybe even do it again. Alright, well, that's about good there. We'll let that sit for a while, and I may even add some more, just to make sure that that thing ain't drying out on me. But we're looking pretty good. We'll obviously still need to do some fretwork on this as well. But man, this board was falling apart. Working on it. We'll come back to the rest of the instrument here. I know we have a neck angle issue. I'm not entirely sure how I want to go about fixing our neck angle issue because it's really bad. So I can actually see that here. If you if I pull down on this, even like as much as I can to get more neck angle, my point here is higher than my point here, just on the neck, strictly. See if you can see that, which means my fretboard, my strings are going in the wrong direction. I need angle more from here. I mean, that's exaggerated, but like, that's the angle I need. I don't need to be working in this direction. Yeah, I need more neck angle than it's going to provide, I think. I think even if I try and wedge this, like I've done that before where I've stuck maybe a piece of binding in between the neck and the ring, the metal ring, the hoop. I'm not sure that's going to provide enough. I think we're really, really working backwards here. This is going to fight me quite a bit. And if it were just a banjo, that might be one thing. 4 strings ain't that bad. Even 5 strings ain't that bad. But this mandolin banjo, 8 strings pulling right back up on that, is not going to help us any. So we're gonna need more. We're gonna need more angle than this is letting me have. I think the problem, the stop point is still here on the tail. If this had more give upwards, I might be able to get it. And I hope that doesn't... I'm thinking that's going to mean I'm going to end up re-drilling this hole one way or another. Just to let this metal piece move up a little bit so we can bring this back and get a little bit more angle, or moreover, a lot more angle. Fun. I may, before I commit to anything, I do want to find out for sure that's what I want to do, but that may be what we're going to do. I'm going to go gather the rest of the parts and make sure we've got absolutely everything to put this thing together. I know I had to order a bridge for this. It's hard to find a mandolin banjo bridge. They're few and far between, so we're going to actually have to make a bridge. I ordered a 5-string banjo bridge. We're going to have to make into a mandolin banjo bridge because I couldn't really find a mandolin banjo bridge. So a lot of make and do on this one. But we'll get it eventually, I'm sure. Well, I've gotten out some tools, some parts. I've been working on this a little bit. This sat overnight, kind of getting oiled up. Hopefully try to get this in a better condition. I've decided that I was going to clean up the back a little bit more. So I've gotten out a block and some sandpaper and just kind of flattened it out. I've done the same on the neck. You can see it's looking a little cleaner. I just decided that I think it's going to be better adhesion surface if we do this. But I got out all the parts to make sure we have everything. And I think we do. So we're doing good there. What I'm still trying to decide is what I'm going to do about this neck angle. You know, because this is not attached, I almost could try and wedge this up a little bit to raise that neck angle. But I don't think that's really what I want to do. I'm not sure I could do it invisibly. I can already tell this board is shrunk. I don't think that's what I want to do. I think I would be better off doing my original plan of making this hole in the end up a little higher. I'm kind of dirty from dust at this point, but we'll go on here. What I'm going to need to know is how big this hole is, because I'm going to want to fill it and re-drill it. I'm not going to want to just drill a new one. It's not going to work well because that hole's already there. So I got to go get my calipers, which I had out doing something else, and we'll come back. It's about a 1/4 inch. I think I've got some plug cutters somewhere. We'll try those out. I think I'm going to go with something hard, like maple, like a hard piece of maple to fill this. We'll color it if we have to, but the thing is, there was a washer on here. It's still in here. And if we move up this much, I can move up quite a bit with that washer still covering that hole. So I think we're going to be doing fine to do that. I am curious about the size of this. Yeah, I thought that the hole is a little bit bigger than this. It's gonna have to be to let it move properly. But I think that's still gonna be the best option here. It is what it is. It's gonna get it playing proper, and that's I think what uh, Spencer talked about doing on this thing. In case you didn't know, this was dropped off by Spencer, the same customer of mine that had the last Washburn guitar and that old mandolin before it. These are all his, and I think we talked about redrilling the hole is probably going to be what we're going to have to do. So I'm going to try and fill that the best I can. Get it looking good first. Alright, I got a little maple plug on some of the world's worst plug cutters. These guys over here. They do less cutting and more burning, but they cut or burn. So we'll take it. Just putting some glue on this guy. Putting it in the hole. Then why I got the hammer out. That's about perfect. We'll give that a few minutes to set that glue up, and then we'll cut that off. It shouldn't take too long really for that much, but we'll probably wait for that glue to totally dry before we start really playing with it. Couldn't ask for a better fit. I'm just going to take a little piece of brown dye now that this is dry. I just knocked this off with a chisel because the way the grain was running was really easy. Yeah, just taking a little bit of brown dye here. That's going to be just about it. Honestly, that's just about perfect. I'm not sure I could ask for much better than that. But while we're here, we'll do some touch-ups. That'll do. Cool. So you can see there. You can probably see that plug. This thing really likes vibrating. You can probably see the plug, but once we get that washer in there, that's going to disappear. You're not going to see anything there, really. So we should be doing good. Trying to keep towel down to keep my carpet from getting all stained. Although I do need to do some cleaning up here. We're doing pretty good here. It's a little dirty, but I don't think I'm going to do anything about that. I think that's part of the patina here. I guess the next thing we want to do is drill a hole. Alright, I've had a time jump and a minor change in plans. Initially, I think I had said I did not want to glue a wedge to the bottom of this fretboard. I did end up doing that. I kind of convinced myself of it for two reasons. One, a wedge to help neck angle, and two, a solid piece of wood as a backer for this fretboard is not a bad idea. There's another reason. I think I've talked about this, but this fretboard has really bad fret sprout because this board has shrunk. As I was fitting this to this neck, I was noticing the fretboard has shrunk enough that I can feel the lip. So hopefully my wedge will fill in some of that gap, allowing for that seam to be a little more seamless. where I'm at now is kind of questioning, going back and forth about whether I want to glue this on before or after I get this this neck attached. The thing I noticed earlier was there's no way this went on before. There was no way to take this neck out really without the fretboard coming off because it had a little bit of a dip to it. I did sand this backer as a wedge, so it is thinner at this end than it is at this end, and that's to help the neck angle, raise that up. But I'm not totally sure that this has totally solved my issue. Yeah. You see, I just reach a point in which that fretboard runs into it. It won't go over it. No matter how far back I tilt it, it won't go over it. So we get it a little further in, and then it might. So what I think I'm actually going to do is go ahead and re-drill a hole a little bit higher on this back side. We're just going to re-drill that hole a little higher. We're going to get the most angle out of this we can without really changing the structure on this thing. I'm only going to be able to go up so much higher to keep that tailpiece in the right spot. That's just kind of where we're at. If I remember right, this was a 1/4 inch hole. It's been a little bit of time. I can remeasure that dowel and make sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And we're just going to move it up. As I move that up, that will force this neck to have more of an angle, and hopefully that will put us at a better neck angle. That's what we'll do. So let's make sure that I knew what size hole we're drilling here. Yep, that's a 1/4 inch hole. So I need a 1/4 inch bit. We need to mark center. I'll get a center brad bit, and we'll actually use an awl to poke a hole to make sure we're drilling right down the center. All right, so I've got this set up here. I've got the drill bit. My drill's right behind me, but I'm just going to kind of poke a hole here, try to line this up with the center. I think we're going to go about here. So we're going to re-drill that hole right there, having moved it up. I'm going to find something to hold this a little bit better, so we're not quite pushing down on the circle. I don't want to bend it or put it out of circle, out of shape. But we'll find something to hold it. I've not really got room on my little drill press to do this. There. So we're going to try to do it this way. What I might actually do is find me a little board to put it on so that I'm drilling down into this, and that's the only part that's being pressed. I'll hang it over the desk. I'll probably end up doing that, which means I'm going to have to do it off camera where you can't see it. Or maybe I can switch to the other camera. We'll see what we can do. Alright, so I've got this set up here. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. I've got a little board sticking out from my desk. It's clamped down so it's not going to move, and we're just going to drill on it. Straight down. I bet you thought that was maple. It's an awfully yellow dust. Not quite there. Okay. we've got a hole. Let me get undone here so we can put a neck in it and see what it looks like. Alright, so I drilled that hole, and you can see that neck fits in there. I am going to go ahead and actually assemble this the right way. I don't have the fretboard on it still. It's still sitting here. But I am going to assemble this properly because I want to see kind of where we're at. This old bridge is kind of busted, and I'm not going to reuse it, but I do just want to see what it's going to look like as a kind of template, see where we're at neck angle wise. Using it as a placeholder. I've had something of a little hiatus working on this, so I've got to pick this back up now. I need to glue this fretboard on, I do believe. I think I'm ready to do that. And so I think we're just going to do it. As I glued that wedge on, they're still a little bit oversized on the sides, but that's good because that'll mean I can shape it perfectly to the neck. I don't think this much glue is going to cut it. I think I want a bigger glue bottle. Alright. Now, just because it's easier, and I don't have to go find anything to spread glue with, here's my finger. We could use some more glue on there. You can see we ain't covering every square inch, so we're gonna make sure we do. Good coverage is key. Alright, that's looking good. Between both of these faces, we should have a good contact. So we're going to go ahead and set that down on there. I need to grab a clamp. So we'll give that plenty of time to set up. We want that to be well adhesed, a couple hours for wood glue. So we'll do that, and then we'll come back. And I'm not sure how far off of putting this thing all back together we are. We'll have to take a good look at it and find out. Alright, so we've had a little time jump here, and you can see this glued on really well. I've gone ahead and put it on, and we're kind of getting set up here. What I need to do, you can see I've got a bridge here, but it's got no grooves in it. It's nice and smooth. I need to put some mandolin saddle grooves in it. What I've got is this guy. It's got some grooves in it for mandolin saddles and nuts, and I want to make sure this matches this, so I'm relatively working in the same dimensions. I am. Okay. So on this side I have mandolin saddle grooves, and on this side I have mandolin nut grooves. So what we'll do is we'll just stick this back in here, and I'll kind of line this up. I'll take a pencil and just mark lines, and we'll use files to kind of put them in there. I'm just going to try and even this out. And that looks pretty good. They're not quite even. I'll try that again. One more time. Okay. So you probably can't see those marks. Maybe you can, right there. But I'm gonna mark those now. I'm gonna pull out my files here. And we're just gonna kind of barely put some grooves in there. This is the treble side, this is the bass side. And these strings are going to be doing this. So I'll just use my finger here, line that up, put a line in there. I want these strings to kind of be traveling across this bridge. I don't need like that much downward angle. I want them to be coming up and over, because as they come over this thing, they really don't need that much downward angle. The more contact I have that way, the more likely we're going to buzz off the back of it. So I just really want these to be traveling across this bridge. Okay, so I've got little tiny grooves in there. I may finalize those just a little bit, just to make sure they're looking pretty good. Enough to hold our string. And we should be good to go. I think I can put strings on here, if that's what I want to do. So yeah, I'll go ahead and get set up here. I'll go grab the strings for this thing, and I think we're ready to start setting her up. I skipped over filming putting this nut back on because it came off, but the nut's back on. I think these tuners are okay. I did look at our neck angle, and we're looking way better than it was, so I'm thinking that's going to be good. So I'll go grab some strings, and we'll come back here and think about setting this thing up. Well, I forgot something kind of important before I started stringing this thing up, and I went ahead and did that. You can see I cleaned that board up, polished them frets. Everything looks a lot better now. Those dots are a lot cleaner. I oiled the thing up. I went ahead and did that off camera. You've seen me do it enough times. I wasn't too worried about showing everything. But I think we're ready for strings now. I was given these strings to use, these mandolin strings, the GHS LS250s. These are fairly familiar to me, but these were sent alongside this for me to put on this. And I'm going to. I gotta remember what all of them are. There's your high string. It has been a while since I've used any of these. So I think we're good to go here. Well, I got it playing. It's playing okay. I could maybe use just a little bit more setup, but I gotta get this thing done, get this video out, and I'm starting to come down with something of a cold, so I'm not really feeling like recording a whole lot more. But here we are. Getting this thing in tune was a nightmare. It was not my favorite, and I really don't like doing them. But it's mostly in tune, and I think we're going to be good to go. I did throw these little sound or string deadeners on behind the bridge. This thing will ring forever for any reason that you give it. So any little bit of sound deadening was really helpful on it. But I hope you enjoyed this little bit of Banjolin video. This isn't really meant to be like a big fancy playing piece. This is meant to be more like a sentimental instrument, you know, just show that we got it. It's a cool little old thing. Once again, hope you enjoyed. I will see you later.